Hey y'all, another awesome guest, repeat guest that you all had to unfortunately miss our conversation because of a snafu there. But thanks for coming on again, Jeff. Tell the people about yourself and what you do there at CBS.
Hey, how's it going, Matt? Well, first off, I am an NFL writer for CBS. I cover the whole league, but unlike most of the national media, I'm Philly-based, so I kind of go to bat for Philadelphia fans, Philadelphia athletes. It's, don't believe all the stuff you hear, that type of thing. I always say not all of us national media people are bad, so I still got the back. I still live in the Philly area. I focus a lot on the Eagles, but again, when you cover the whole league, you like seeing the perspective of every team, and I feel you get a good evaluation of a team like the Eagles when you compare them to the rest of the league. Because I think a lot of people in this area tend to either A, overvalue their players, or B, undervalue them. So it's good to compare like a Jalen Hurts to, say, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, that type of thing.
Oh my God. I thank you. Well, you got us kicked off. I feel like when I saw that, I almost threw up. And I said to my buddy OJ Spivey, it's like, for me, if we were to do that, it would be like the shady for Kiko Alonso trade. I just feel I would be so like dejected and like, what are we doing?
So when that trade happened in 2015, I tried convincing myself for about 2 or 3 minutes that this is going to work. And I said, nope, can't do it. I'm like, this is a terrible deal. What's Chip Kelly doing? Why are they making a trade like this? And the Eagles got a good linebacker. Don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't think Kiko Alonso stunk, but how do you trade LaShawn McCoy? How do you trade the franchise's all-time leading rusher? You're bell cow the last 2 years. I don't understand it. I still don't understand it to this day. And LaShawn McCoy is probably going to be a Hall of Famer at the end of the day, and Kiko Alonso's out of the league.
Shady McCoy is the all-time leading rusher, and he really only had the majority of the snaps for 5 years, 6 years, I would say.
I think the only time I ever ripped LaShawn McCoy in his, like, how long was he in Philadelphia? I'm trying to think now. 7 years. When he broke Wilbert's record, I was like, well, it wasn't that impressive considering that the Eagles' all-time leading rusher only had like 6,500 yards. I'm like, it's actually kind of pathetic that it's low.
Exactly.
So I think that was the only time I ever ripped LaShawn McCoy. Yeah, I congratulated him for it, but I was just like, man, I'm like, Steve Van Buren, when he had that record, he was the NFL's all-time leading rusher, and then Wilbert broke it, and it's an impressive list of running backs, but it also shows like how little running backs were in Philadelphia. Like, they weren't here long. Like, Ricky Wars was only here 3 years. Will Montgomery's only here about 7 or 8. Steve Van Buren has short career. So LaShawn McCoy should have shattered that record and should have been untouchable. Now with the Eagles, it might still be untouchable based on the state of running backs in the NFL. They just don't last very long.
Another interesting point that you just drove by there, that brings me to another question. Do you think Miles Sanders is this his last year with us, or do you think that the Eagles re-up him at a discount because of injury history and lack of productivity? What do you think is going to happen?
I'm hoping not. I hope Miles Sanders is here for the foreseeable future because I think he's a big play running back. But again, there's stuff going on behind the scenes that I really don't know how they evaluate his game. I mean, because we're always looking at carries, yards per attempt, yards per touch, but how is Miles Sanders blocked? Does he know all the plays? Is he a good fit for Nick Sirianni's offense? I think he is, but then again, I'm also not, the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to over evaluating players. So it depends on what the Eagles can do. I wouldn't pay Miles Sanders $10 million a year. Let's put it that way. But if you can get him for $5 or $6 million for a couple of years, I think with his playmaking ability, sure, why not? But with the Eagles' offensive line, I feel like you could put any running back behind.
Yeah. That's with that said, though, I do really hope, like you said, I hope what they do is just re-up him early, get him early, because I still think a running back maybe only has 7-8 years of really, really good football. So you get him, you tie him down for that period of time, and then he gets that one contract and then probably has to move on. But I think to let him, I would hate to watch him go play for Washington Commanders or something like that and shred us for, 4 touchdowns or something.
Well, that's the thing too, Matt. They have Antonio Gibson, and they're looking to add running backs. Like, they have Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, and they're still looking to add more talent there, which is weird because you've got Antonio Gibson going on his third year. It's crazy how we view running backs. Like, for example, I am writing potential franchise tag players for every team for CBS, and
Okay.
Cordell Patterson's a free agent. Well, I'm saying to myself, you're the Falcons. You can only tag him for $9.5 million and he plays two positions. You do that, because he was designated as a running back last year, and that's a
Absolutely.
huge pay raise for him. So, to me, that seems like a no-brainer. And I'm saying to myself, well, what are the Falcons doing if they don't do that? Because I think Cordell Patterson will make a ton of money on the open market
Yes.
just because of his season last year.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
He is. That's how I
it's
describe
been-
it.
It's been a while since there's Deebo Samuel towards the end of the season came on strong and did quite a bit of that, but it wasn't as much as throughout the whole season. From week one, when we played the Falcons, he was running the ball, catching the ball. He was their MVP offensively.
Yeah, he was. And the thing is, Deebo Samuel, I think they turned him a wide back. Like, he played wide receiver and caught a lot of balls, caught a yards, but he was probably their best running back in the postseason. Like, he was the guy you just could not tackle. And everybody seems shocked when the 49ers are going. I'm like, the 49ers have been doing this all year. That's when they started winning, when they started using Deebo Samuel in the backfield more. And between him and Eli Mitchell, that's a nice little combination to have. And look, Kyle Shanahan knows these guys don't have long shelf lives in the NFL, so you want to use them while you can. And I think that opened up the passing game for Brandon Ayuk, for George Kittle. The 49ers have a really good offensive line. I think it helped out Jimmy Garoppolo a lot. It's a system that I feel like we're going to see more of in terms of the NFL. We're going to see more players like Deebo Samuel, or teams are going to look to scout like that, because I think the running game is becoming a lot more prevalent in this league.
So you bring up the 49ers. Do you think they'll what kind of compensation can the 49ers reasonably expect for Garoppolo? If they decided we want to move on to Trey Lance, they have some kind of understanding with Aaron Rodgers, maybe, that he would come there. If they're just done with Garoppolo, what do you think that they could get back for him from anyone?
I mean, I just saw a mediocre quarterback get traded for a first and third round pick last year. So, I mean, the 49ers should shoot for the stars here and try to get a first round pick for this guy. But I think if they got a second, that'd be really good, because that's what they ended up giving New England for Garoppolo. And I don't think Garoppolo is like a bad quarterback by any means. I just don't think he's good. Like, I think he's a guy that he would probably, as much as I hate to say it, he probably will work well in the Eagles offense, just because he's a game manager and they like to run the football a lot, at least last year. I mean, things can obviously change depending on how Jalen Hurts develops. But overall, I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo would be a guy like Pittsburgh could take a flyer on, or a team like Carolina, someone for a year or two, because he's still young. He still knows how to manage a game. It's just, he used to be so good in the fourth quarter, and now he's not. Like, in 2019, he was one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks in the league, which is what made Super Bowl 54 so mind-boggling. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy had like 105 passer rating in the fourth quarter. He was as clutch as could be for the 49ers, and then all of a sudden he goes like 3 for 12 in the fourth quarter and has like a 20 passer rating. It's almost like now when the lights go on, Jimmy Garoppolo just doesn't show up anymore, which is a shame, because in my mind, he's a decent quarterback, and he's a guy that I think is very serviceable, at least in a year where it doesn't seem like there's a franchise-changing quarterback in this draft class.
You think the Steelers would be interested in probably taking a rental, 2-3 year rental on Jimmy Garoppolo?
I wouldn't be. How can I word it? I guess I would go with. I feel like they could use a flyer on him for like a year or two. I'll say that with Pittsburgh. Like, I feel like he'd be a huge upgrade over Ben. Let's put it that way.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If they won't, even Carson Wentz, I think, would be an upgrade over Ben at this point.
Yes.
He's one of those guys that I feel like the Steelers are a stable enough franchise, and they got to improve the offensive line. Don't get me wrong. They got to improve the secondary. But I feel like they need a quarterback that can get the ball downfield. And
yes.
When you got playmakers on that team, now again, they're going to lose Juju Smith-Schuster. It looks like Washington will be a free agent. See, to me, I wouldn't mind that. Like, if you can give up a second-round pick for a guy like that just for a couple years, sure. And then maybe you could draft a quarterback this year.
Right.
Because that's the key here. I would take like a year or two on Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of make him like a Jared Goff type, and then go after that future quarterback that you want. I think that's what Detroit ultimately will do this year. I don't think they're going to draft the quarterback high, but I think they'll take a chance on the quarterback maybe next year, when Jared Goff's contract runs out. So I think that's what Pittsburgh will do with a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo if they choose to go that route. But I see the Steelers being what the Steelers always done. They're going to get a chance to get either Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, or Malik Willis. I think they're going to take at least one of them. I shouldn't say at least. I think they're going to take if they take 2 quarterbacks, that's insane.
Somebody's going to do it one year, and our
Washington did it. Mike Shanahan did it. He traded Robert Griffin III.
Oh,
and he won him, so he traded Kirk Cousins.
Because of the mismanagement of the rest of the team, it ended up not working well. But they're both asset. I guess they ended up getting nothing for Kirk though, because they franchised him multiple times, so they couldn't. I guess they didn't get compensation for him. And I guess did Robert Griffin hit the open market?
Robert Griffin did. Remember, he signed with Cleveland.
Yes.
2016.
Season opener with against Carson.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he was a free agent, and then he was terrible. And I think everybody knew he was terrible, but that was like his second chance, and no one really wanted him. And then he had a, he had a decent career as a backup. He didn't play that much, but he was pretty much Tyler Huntley before Tyler Huntley. So in Baltimore. So he ended up lasting a couple of years, 8-9 years in the league, and now he's a college football analyst for ESPN. So,
he's really good too.
Yeah, he is. Like, I think Robert Griffin is very knowledgeable. I always liked him as a quarterback. I thought he was a little cocky when he was younger, but again, what young player isn't, So I'm not going to slam Robert Griffin. I just thought he was dealt a bad hand in Washington because
as everyone is.
Yeah, it's a shame that the coach and his assistants really didn't want him. That's really what it comes down to with Robert Griffin on, and then the ACL injury that just kind of ended him.
I can't believe. Yeah, I in my mind it always registered that they were able to spin them off and get compensation, but they got nothing for either one of those guys, and they hit on 2 draft picks at quarterback in a single draft.
Hey, see, this is what's crazy with the whole Washington scenario. You get a guy like Kirk Cousins, who I liked at Michigan State, and I'm a Big Ten guy, so I really liked Kirk Cousins. He was a good quarterback, and I'm like, I wouldn't be shocked if they gave him a shot at some point. And it wasn't in the Shanahan era, but Jay Gruden did, and everybody loves to rip on Kirk Cousins, but you can't tell me you wouldn't take Kirk Cousins on the Eagles right now. Like I think he's a top 12 quarterback. I don't think he's I don't know what to make of him. Like, everybody goes, he's not a winner. I'm like, is it Kirk Cousins' fault he doesn't have an offensive line? Is it Kirk Cousins' fault his defense all of a sudden sucks because they paid him more than probably what he's worth? I mean, I wouldn't pay him $45 million to be my quarterback, but I'd certainly pay him 25 or 32. And Kirk Cousins would end up with Kyle Shanahan on the 49ers, which is where I always thought he'd end up going. I think that'd be a match made in heaven for that.
Yeah, I think I would say and with the Kyle Shanahan example, I think he's Kirk Cousins or Matt Ryan. It's kind of like the same area. And Stafford was in that conversation a couple of years ago as well, in my eyes.
We all laugh about the whole Stafford Hall of Fame debate, but he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He could stop right now. He probably would make the Hall of Fame. And they're like, well, what are we doing? And I'm like, what are we doing here? I'm like, he's top 12 all-time passing yards, top 12 all-time in passing touchdowns. He has a Super Bowl. All those guys that have done that are in the Hall of Fame. Like, you want to put Phillip Rivers in the Hall of Fame? Great. Right. I'm not against that, but don't rip a guy who just won a championship. I know we're doing recency history here, but Stafford's numbers is just going to improve. Like, if he were 39-40, he's going to be in the top 5.
And I'm not interested in for exactly what everything you're saying, and then people want to put Eli in the Hall of Fame. So don't even come to me about Matt Stafford shouldn't be in. Matt Stafford every single day of the week, and his Super Bowl performance was better than Eli's.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Eli made a lot of clutch throws. Eli was a postseason quarterback, but he just didn't get there enough. Like, no, I don't know where to make Eli a Hall of Fame or not. I think he eventually gets in because of the name.
They're going to get him in. It's just
yeah. I mean, they are, and like I can't. The touchdown to interception thing bugs me, and I know a lot of people like to compare him to Joe Namath from like different eras,
right?
Way different eras,
right?
Like I hate when they say Joe Namath threw more interceptions than he threw touchdowns. I'm like, Joe Namath was the only quarterback using the shotgun,
right?
So I don't know what to. what they're trying to compare here. Like I ultimately do think Eli's going to get in because winning seems to trump everything. And I'm sorry, Donovan Knapp was a better quarterback than Eli Manning.
Way better.
He was a way better quarterback, but he doesn't have a Super
Tony
Bowl.
Romo was way better.
Exactly. I told Tony Romo this. You have a Super Bowl, you're in. Like, you know that. And he goes, yeah,
He still should be in. If Eli gets in, Tony Romo should be in.
Oh, exactly. And you know what? The funny joke about it is, like, they all these quarterbacks say the same thing. Yeah, we all have Super Bowl. We probably would be in. So it seems like if you're a good quarterback and you win a Super Bowl, you're eventually going to make the Hall of Fame. So I don't know why we're arguing over this whole Matt Stafford thing. It looks like he's going to get in.
I'm with you. So a quarterback who's looked like they're trending in the other direction. Where do you think Carson Wentz is? What do you think the future holds, and where is he going to go this year? The Steelers?
I don't know, honestly. Like, I feel like he's not done as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think there's enough talent there where some team's going to take a flyer on him. But
absolutely,
it is funny how all of a sudden the stuff I was saying about him last year, you know, the whole, I don't want to call him pompous because that's not right. But, you know, the whole, I'm Carson Wentz, I'm the franchise, you know, stuff that you don't like about someone in a locker room, he showed. And it's hard to explain because unless you played any high level of football or basketball or whatever sport there's always that guy, you know, that guy who probably thinks he's better than what he is.
Yep.
Carson Wentz is that guy.
Yes.
And, you know, it's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault. And he doesn't publicly blame it, but there's stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I feel like all that stuff's coming out now in Indianapolis that came out in Philadelphia that a lot of people just didn't want to believe.
And also you can't lead if everybody knows you're leaking and talking about people to the media.
I mean, what do we talk about Kyrie Irving? How can Brooklyn Nets win the championship right now with what's going on with Kyrie Irving?
Oh my God.
It's the same thing with Carson Wentz. It's the exact same thing. It's not being a leader. I don't want to get into a political debate here. But,
no, I hear you. Hear you.
but you know, people can read between the tea leaves here. You know, you're thinking to yourself, oh, hold on a second. I have to do this, but the leader of my football team doesn't?
Exactly.
And, you know, how many practices he missed, he almost missed games. He wasn't ready for games because he was missing the practices. It all adds up. And
it's all sacrifice, though. Being a teammate and being on a team, there is necessary sacrifice. If this is going to hold you back from being available, then the other people in the locker room naturally have to gravitate towards another center of gravity, something that's more. So you automatically give up the reins to Darius Leonard, who's just a better football player, but also because we could know that we could trust Darius Leonard to be there.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You're right, Matt. You know, you're making the sacrifice for your team. It's called being a leader. I think that is the biggest that is the biggest thing of being a leader. It's doing stuff you don't want to do.
Right.
For whatever reason you don't want to do it. I'm not going to criticize the guy for his I'm not. But
right.
It's one of those, you just do it. It's, you know, again, a huge locker room like that. We got 53 guys, and I'm not even counting the practice squad guys here and everybody else. But, you know, it's hard for a coach to go to bat for somebody when you got to see the other side of the fence here. It's almost like you do I don't know, you know.
And that it's not even the loss to Jacksonville. It was one of the ugliest losses I think that I've watched because it was a slow motion disaster. The whole time they had every opportunity to win. You just knew it. You just knew that they weren't going to do it. Their body language is bad. That's how Carson kind of he sulks.
I hate that. I've said to kids before. I coach basketball. I coach varsity high school basketball. I say, hey guys, don't sulk.
Yeah.
Don't go woe is me, because that's how it gets worse. And we had that this year with a lot of our guys. And like I said, good guys willing to win, but as soon as they got down 5 or 6, especially early, you had to call timeout. You had to, because it would get worse if it get to 10, 15. And that was the Indianapolis Colts this year. And that was with the Eagles. Carson would always sulk.
Yep.
I'm not convinced Carson Wentz will win the Super Bowl. I'm not.
No. No, I had this conversation. With our buddy Victor from the Liberty Line, the Philly
Vixen,
Pod. Yeah, and Vic very much believes that he's still not, until like maybe probably a couple weeks ago, he wasn't convinced that getting rid of Carson was the right was. I don't think that he still has that opinion, but
it's just funny because people on Twitter seem to think he hates Carson Wentz, which I'll
oh my god,
I was
he
like,
loves
you
Carson.
don't know him, man. Like that guy went to move mountains for Carson Wentz, and then all of a sudden
Right.
he's Jalen Hurts, and all of a sudden he hates Carson Wentz. I'm like, no, he's a quarterback. But
He is not a Carson Wentz hater at all.
no, not even close. I'm not a Carson Wentz hater, but I'm also not afraid to admit like
Right.
it wasn't going to work out here. And look, I wasn't the whole team Carson Wentz, team Nick Foles thing, but I think that Eagles team was good enough to win it all with him. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
can you imagine how things would have went in that Atlanta game? Like, I also said it was good that they won without him because if they would have lost that first playoff game with him at quarterback, this city would have never forgave him. They never would have, and I don't think he would ever recover from it.
I from the beginning, just putting it on record again, my point of view about the whole thing was that I never was going to give him, if it was up to me, I was never going to give Carson Wentz that mega deal because he has injury history. He had one really good year. The second year after he came back from the ACL was pretty good, but it wasn't Super Bowl level. And Nick Foles, I just don't know how we let him go twice. So I was going to, in my eyes, I would have like created like a quarterback budget. And I had reasons that I could tell Nick that this is as much as you're going to get, but you're going to have stability. You're going to retire here. You be a legend. Carson, you're going to make, B minus money, but are we all convinced that you are an A+ quarterback? No, if you want to walk away, that's okay. We'll go draft somebody and we'll keep our Super Bowl MVP. I know it's fantasy thinking, but that's how I would have done it.
Well, see, that's the thing too. Like, Nick Foles wouldn't have made that money, so you could spread it out to other areas of the roster and keep the window open a little longer.
Yes.
But, they had to get creative, and the Eagles were never in this situation where they had to pay a quarterback a lot of money, at least under Howie Roseman. Now, they did it with McNabb for a lot of years, but they also had a foundation in place with their defense, and it seemed like anybody who went into Jim Johnson's defense was good. And, the Eagles couldn't spend, like, premier money on certain positions, but Andy Reid always found a way to make it work. That was the stability they had, so you could pay Donovan that much money. I don't know if Howie Roseman ever had that stability, or now he's figuring it out, or now I think the most successful way to win in the NFL is you have a guy like Jalen Hurts for about 4 or 5 years, and then you move on. And maybe that's what the Eagles are thinking. Like, I'm sure they want that elite quarterback, but you got to remember when you trade for Russell Wilson, you're losing your draft capital. You can't spend on anything else. The Eagles work their way back into this situation. Build the team around the guy you currently have.
Come on, exactly.
And I'm not against them getting Russell Wilson. I love Russell Wilson. He's one of my favorite players in the league. Bring him in, but you got to remember that there's a cost. There's a cost reward to that.
Yes,
a risk and a cost reward. I wish people would study economics in college. So they can that stuff.
Yes, and the cap, because it's not. This isn't fantasy football. This is so. People think that you're just picking up players in a vacuum. You're picking up Russell Wilson, his $30 million contract. What do you have him 4 or 5 more years? The Seahawks won their Super Bowl during that window that you're talking about, where you have him on the rookie deal. You have an all-time great in the modern NFL with all this passing. It's probably the best defense that there has been, the Legion of Boom defense. That's how you build a Super Bowl. You transplant Russell to Philly. Do we beat Brady and the Bucks if we had Russell Wilson? I don't think so.
I don't think that team currently constructed doesn't. That's the thing. I think people seem to forget the Eagles weren't supposed to make the playoffs this year. We're good. Like, I had them at 8 wins, and I was Mr. Optimistic.
Yes.
Yes. They're like, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, their offensive line's good. Their defensive line's good. By the way, their defensive line wasn't that good this year.
No.
That's the irony of it. Like, they need pass rushers, and Josh Sweat's good. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Josh Sweat. Brandon Graham coming back is going to be huge. But are we sure he's going to be back? Like, are we 100% convinced of that? They have Javon Hargrave, but Fletcher Cox is getting older. They need to improve at linebacker. They need to improve at safety. They might need another cornerback. There's a lot of needs on this team. They need a wide receiver. By the way, I'm tired of people telling me Quez Watkins is a wide receiver too. I'm like, do you win Super Bowls with Quez Watkins as your wide receiver too? I don't. They need a slot receiver. Could
It's
Quez
just
be that
silly.
guy?
Eagles fans are so ridiculous. Either they're like they talk about him as if they're their firstborn child, or they're the worst football player ever. Quez Watkins, people think that Quez Watkins could burn Jalen Ramsey. You put him 1-on-1. It's just nonsensical. You're exactly right. He is.
My favorite is, and this is just me being a coach here, Quez Watkins was wide open on the play. Jalen Hurts didn't see him. I'm like, yeah, he was, but you guys do know there was a guy over the top, right? Like, it's not that simple.
There are progressions. Okay, he got open late. He wasn't part of the progression.
Exactly. I'm telling you, this is what's so frustrating as someone who used to play football and who has been offered to coach football. Not a head coach, obviously, but you gotta watch the whole picture here. It's not as plain as black and white. Stop using these 10-second Twitter clips. Like, there's so much more to it. Like, there's the all 22. There's so much more to this than coming at live full speed. Like, I trust what some NFL quarterbacks do a heck of a lot more than a Twitter video. I just do.
Absolutely.
And, do I think Jalen Hurts hurt them in that? Yeah, I do, because he didn't play well. And yeah, he did miss a couple open guys, but it's not like he had time to get the ball to him either.
Yeah. Having Russell Wilson, that game, first of all, the end score was a lot closer than what that game really was. If we had Russell Wilson, we would have been closer, and the Bucs would have tried to go for 40, 45.
Yeah, can Russ play defense? Can Russ tackle? Can Russ cover?
No.
Outside of Darius Slay, I don't think too many defensive players play well that game.
And I think that Gannon, I'm somebody who was frustrated with Gannon's scheme, but I think he was trying to not leave Steven Nelson in a bad situation. I think Slay, we can trust Slay to guard guys one-on-one. I think we need to upgrade at corner number 2. Avante's good in the slot, just like we got a good Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins.
It's not like Steve Nelson was terrible this year. Like, he wasn't good, but you needed him this year. You did. And you didn't have anybody.
Right.
You can try to upgrade there. And that's nothing against Steve Nelson. Like, I know a lot of people were saying, oh, they should keep him. I'm like, you can get better.
Right.
He's
fine. He's fine. He's in nobody's Pro Bowl spot that played in the Pro Bowl this year is in jeopardy, even if Steven Nelson takes his game up a notch or two next year.
Yeah.
Let's say it like that.
I'm the guy that if you don't go to the Final Four, I think anybody's replaceable. That's just how I always feel. In the NFL, like, I coached a 2-19 basketball team this year. You know what the first thing we told our guys was at our all-season meeting? None of your jobs are safe. 19.
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out. Like, get better. That's the same way with the Eagles. Like, Steve Nelson's job ain't safe. TJ Edwards' job isn't safe.
Oh my gosh, no. Fletcher Cox isn't safe in my eyes.
He's a legend here.
Yes.
Miles Sanders' job isn't safe. We were just talking about Miles Sanders. Like, will he be back? I don't know. Jalen Hurts' job technically isn't safe.
The only person I would say is a lock to make the team, other than the people who got re-signed this year, because that's a given, Brandon Graham. I feel like that's the only person who has a spot on the team for sure.
Exactly. Like,
Kelsey.
I do laugh how, like, Eagles fans wanted Gannon gone. I'm like, you know you have to replace him with another coordinator, and then you got to redo your defense again. You ever think
true.
Jim Johnson's first year, I think the Eagles were like 25th in defense. Like, they weren't good. I mean, yeah, they lost Hugh Douglas early, and Mike Mamula got hurt again, but they had players on that team. Like, he discovered he had a trotter. He discovered Al Harris was a pretty good nickel corner.
Yeah.
You know what they had.
Right.
Like, they had talent, but we didn't think those guys were that talented outside Troy Vincent, Bobby Taylor, and Brian Dawkins. You found out you had like a Damon Moore. You found out guys like that. That's what this year's Eagles team did. I think we found out Josh Sweat can play.
Yes.
So, and they signed him.
Yes.
There's a lot of things you could take into a year where the Eagles were in transition and they made the playoffs. And I'd love for them to get an elite quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but I'd like for them to do a lot of things. I'd like for them to get linebackers because they need one, especially in that defense. You need a linebacker. I'm sorry, I'm not watching T.J. Edwards and Alex Singleton get beat all the time, and I like them. I think they deserve spots on this team. It's not starters.
I'm not against. I think Howie Roseman gets a lot of flack, and I've been frustrated a time or two with Howie, but I think this is the right moment for him. I think with all the draft capital, he can move back, he can move up, he can get extra picks. All I want is to never see Ryan Kerrigan in an Eagles jersey again.
I don't think you'll see that. I'm not an insider, but I don't think Ryan Kerrigan will be back with the year. I'm 99.9% sure that will not happen.
I mean, let's put it like this. I'm going to start hitting the weights now so that I can maybe talk to somebody at the Eagles and try to play defensive end.
So speaking of that franchise tag article, I had to do a candidate for the Eagles too. I got to do a candidate for every team, and I literally put none. There are no unrestricted free agents on this team worth putting a franchise tag on. If they do that, I will literally go down to the Novacare complex and ask, what are they doing? Like, Anthony Harris is probably their best free agent.
Anthony Harris, and he seems like a great guy. He's fine.
Coming back, I wouldn't be against it. But you're right. Are you missing much? Like, this is the perfect year for them.
Yes.
I think we should be talking about more players the Eagles could cut, which I haven't even gotten into yet. Like, who has the big cap hits or anything? Because we're still so early in this process. But yeah, the Eagles don't use the franchise tag on players. I don't think they're going to be using it this year.
No, and again, Fletcher is a legend. Nobody else should wear number 91 again. He dominant probably. In my generation of watching football, Eagles football, he's probably the best defensive tackle that I've watched. But if he wants to come back at the same cap number, then he has to go. We have to restructure. It has to happen.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where it's like, okay, can you take a little less? Like, you made your money, but again, he's hard to replace too. Like, because I don't think he had a bad year by any stretch, but he's not the guy that we saw when they won the Super Bowl.
No.
He's not that guy. And the Eagles did it with Zach Ertz. Like, he's still a good player, but he's not the guy they once had.
Exactly.
And that's where you got to kind of move on from these guys. Like, unless you feel like you can't replace – like, the Eagles had someone who could replace Zach Ertz.
Yes.
I don't know what they have a guy that can replace Fletcher Cox. Because Hassan Ridgeway, did you even realize he was on the team this year?
He was horrible.
He was terrible, and he was a player when they got him. There were a lot of guys where you're just like, wait, they were in the Eagles? Like, they were on this team? Like, Ryan Kerrigan, everybody made the joke, I was really talking with Ryan Kerrigan this year. I'm like, okay.
We need to bring Bo Allen back.
I don't even know what he's doing right now. He's tired. Bring in the Dominican Sue. Bring him in. Bring him in for the cheap. Bring his 35-year-old. Bring him in there.
There are a lot of defensive linemen in the draft. Who do you have your eye on? Who are some of the
you know what? I haven't gone too far in the draft yet. Obviously, with free agency and stuff. I'm the big free agent guy at CBS. But the kid from Florida State, I like the defensive end. What's his name? Hamilton? Is it Hamilton?
I haven't been able to dig into it either.
Yeah, see, I don't get into this stuff till like late March after I come back from vacation. But yeah, the kid from the defensive end from Florida State, I really like.
Okay.
Now, the guy I would probably trade my picks for, if he's at 9 or 10, Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame.
Oh, the safety. Oh, my God. I love that guy.
Is a baller. You trade those picks for. That's the guy right there. That's the guy you trade 2 of those first-round picks or, first and second. Say, you know what? Give me that guy. That is your all-pro safety.
Didn't Nate Allen come from River Nate Allen's?
He was USF.
we were talking about Kyle Hamilton and we were talking about Nate Allen, but I had the schools mixed up. So all bad omens.
Yeah, because I said he went to USF, and that's when you froze.
Well, I'm glad that they didn't go to the same school, because Nate Allen had a couple of good years.
Yeah, he didn't suck. Like, Eagles fans make it look like he was the worst player. You think everybody stinks, and then they're like, oh, they were good when they leave. I'm like, no, they were good here too. You just don't realize it.
Like Rasul Douglas. Oh my God, we're never gonna hear the end of Rasul Douglas.
My buddy Louis DeBasi, man, he was loving this year, because I told him a couple times, I'm like, look, I don't hate Rasul, but I think you're overvaluing him a little bit. But I ate crow for that, so
we should have moved him. I always felt like he had more safety, body type, and
he was better than Sidney Jones. I hated the Sidney Jones people. I didn't think he was good at all.
He's just too slow.
Yeah.
I think Sidney's just flat out slow.
You know what it is? One or two people hooked on to him that were Eagles writers early on. Sidney Jones. I'm like, okay, that's great. Yeah, you guys play the high level of football. That's great. But that don't mean you know how to evaluate certain players. Like,
no.
And then especially when he towards the cues, I'm like, get me away from this guy. But they drafted.
Yes. And there was never a splash. It was just, I'm a big eye test person. Like, measurables are great, but show me what he can do on the field. And I never saw Sidney Jones. He's really good on Madden. If you get the Madden 19.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, he's a 82 on Madden. So I'm like, you know what? I don't even play that game anymore, and I have it. I get it every year, and I barely play it. I play it for like 2 weeks. I'm like, why did I just do this to myself?
And it's basically the same game.
It is. It doesn't change.
No.
It used to change every year. But
you get a couple cool plays or formations that you can run.
Yep.
Like new punt fakes, basically.
I won the Wildcat this year. Yeah, congrats. I can do the Philly special this year. I'm like, why do I want to do the Philly special on that?
And now everybody wants to do the Philly special. Like, whatever the moment gets intense, now everybody wants to go and do the Philly special. Like in the Super Bowl. It was ridiculous.
Did you see my tweet when Joe Mixon threw the touchdown pass in the Super Bowl?
No, I didn't see. What'd you say?
Touchdown pass in the Super Bowl last 10 years. Joe Mixon 1, Aaron Rodgers 0.
Oh.
He is that guy who, I'm smarter than you. He always thinks he's smarter than you.
Yes.
And I remember when he said, I'm immunized. I'm like, oh, shut up. Like, I know what you mean. Like, just shut up.
So you felt that he was lying?
Yes. And like, I didn't care enough to like actually.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy. Like,
yeah.
Oh, by the way,
yeah,
I'm like this. Aaron Rodgers is lying.
Yes.
I'm like, I'll keep that in here. And then when he got busted, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He was immunized, guys. Remember? Yeah, I'm immunized too.
Interesting conversation that Barrett Brooks brought up a few weeks ago. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. He said that at this point in his career, Jalen Hurts is better than Donovan McNabb. Where do you fall in that conversation?
Ooh. Well, let's see. To me, I mean, he probably read my article on CBS Sports about this, because I kind of compared Jalen Hurts to McNabb, and you know, I look at it as I think McNabb was a lot better in year 2 than Jalen Hurts was.
Okay.
Because McNabb was second in MVP voting. You got to remember that. Like, he would have won MVP, and Marshall Faulk then set the league record for touchdowns that year for scrimmage touchdowns. So, but McNabb was really good in 2000. Like, he wasn't a great passer, but he got better as the year went on. Jalen Hurts did too, but McNabb completing 56% of his passes early in 2000 was middle of the pack. 56% today is terrible. So, you know, I just felt like McNabb made more of an impact on an Eagles team that had nothing on offense. They had an aging Torrance Small. They had an aging Charles Johnson. Juice was out. They had to roll with the Darnell Autry, who then got hurt, so they had to go with an aging Chris Warren. They had to give the ball to Stanley Pritchett. Their offensive line stayed healthy the whole year. Somehow all of them started all 16 games. I mean, McNabb just carried that team. He was great in the postseason for them in their wild card playoff win against Tampa. I mean, if you ever want to watch a classic Eagles game, watch that game. because that game was awesome. The vet was rocking New Year's Eve. Fun time. That team was really good at the end of the year. And really the only team they couldn't beat was the New York Giants. They lost them all 3 times. So, I mean, that one playoff game, I don't think Hurts is – I just think the quarterback position is more involved than it was. Like, I think the Eagles could have ran McNabb more. There wasn't designed plays to do that. It was
Right.
If no one was open, McNabb took off. Like, McNabb had that big game against Washington that year.
There was no read option either. There was no.
It was McNabb drops back, 5-step, 7-step drop, and that's it. Like, he took off to take off. And he didn't want to take off. He just did. So.
And McNabb could have got his clock cleaned by these guys. They can hit the quarterbacks.
Like, McNabb was a good football player when he was younger. He really was. He was one of the elite football. He made the Pro Bowl. Like, I know we love to say, Hurts is a Pro Bowl alternate. I'm like,
not the same.
Yeah, it's not. McNabb earned his Pro Bowl spot. He was really good in 2000. I mean, I'm not gonna fully disagree with Barrett because I can see where he's coming from, but no, I gotta go with that.
Yeah. It's worth discussing because I think often the Philadelphia, the passerby Eagles fan generally is kind of too down on Jalen. They're kind of out on him. I think the median or average fan is probably out. And to give that perspective, at least opens up the conversation. Is like, okay, there's a lot of people in Philly who don't respect McNabb either.
No, they don't. And they never did. And you know what? That's a spoiled Eagles fan base that we got now. When I grew up as an Eagles fan, these were the times.
Yes.
The 98 Eagles. They were terrible. You knew they were going to be terrible because they were already a sinking ship.
Yep.
Ricky Waters jumped off the Titanic before it sunk. He wasn't going to be there anymore. That was one of the worst games I ever watched, by the way. After he dominated for them for 3 years and everybody just didn't like him. He goes to Seattle. Yes, the Eagles get to play the first game of the year. So, yeah, Bobby Hoying sacked 9 times. Ricky Waters just torches them, scores a touchdown, does a little. It was bad. It hurt. It was 38-0. I'm like, is this team even going to win a game this year? They eventually did, but they won 3 of them. But they were bad. I mean, they started Bobby Hoying. They started Rodney Peete again. Ty Detmer. No, Ty Detmer wasn't there. Coy Detmer was there. So they started him. Just a mess. That was
ugly.
Yeah,
ugly.
And that was the era like I grew up in. Like they were never good enough to win the Super Bowl, but they were good enough to. They played that inspired brand of Philadelphia football.
Yes.
Tough, hard-nosed defense, but they were never Super Bowl contenders like they were under Andy Reid. I don't think a lot of Eagles fans in their 20s respect it. I really don't.
No.
Like this has been an unprecedented era of Eagles football, and I remember everybody saying story, and I'm like, guys, just be happy you got one because, like, I thought they were going to get one under Reid. They should have got at least 3 or 4 under Reid. If we're going to be honest, doesn't mean Andy Reid was a bad coach. It doesn't mean McNabb was a choker. Because I hate to tell you this, McNabb only played bad in one of those title games.
Yes,
the defense.
The Bucks.
Yeah, well, and Carolina, but he got hurt.
Oh, Carolina, yeah.
McNabb played on a broken leg. So, in my opinion, he played on a broken leg against
Carolina.
He was still recovering from that. Like, he was only like 2 games out of that. If Don was fully healthy, the Eagles would have won that game. I truly believe that. But the Eagles couldn't stop Joe Jurevicius, and then they couldn't stop Musa Muhammad the next year. And I think those games, eventually they moved on from Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor, who were great for that. By the way, anybody who tells me Louis Shepard and Sheldon Brown were better than Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor, you have no idea what you're talking about. You just don't.
No.
You just don't.
No.
Those 2 were dominant. They were all pros. Shepard was really good. Brown was good too. But
neither one of them made a Pro Bowl. I don't even think they made Pro Bowls, though.
Lito did. Lito made 2 All-Pro teams, I think.
Lito did. Okay.
Yeah. Lito just didn't last that long. Like, I think by the time he was 30, he was out. Vincent and Taylor were there for a while. Like
and Al Harris.
Yeah, and Al Harris was their 3rd quarterback. No, I'm not kidding you, Matt. This was the Eagles quarterback roster in 2002. Bobby Taylor, Troy Vincent, Al Harris, Lito Shepard, Sheldon Brown.
Just ridiculous.
Embarrassment of riches. Like, anybody got hurt, you can put them in. Clinton Hart was Brian Dawkins' backup for a lot of years, and Clinton Hart started a lot of games in this league. They were deep. Wow. They were really deep. It was linebacker where they sucked. they decided to just let Trotter walk, which, well, they didn't technically let him walk. They franchise tag and then they rescinded it, but he wasn't going to play. So
Yeah.
it was like the Ben Simmons thing. Well, okay, we'll let you go. Go get a lot of money somewhere else. And it just told you that they don't value the linebacker position. They don't. They still don't.
So you bring it up, the elephant in the room, the James Harden trade. What are your initial thoughts? And is it now championship or bust for the Sixers?
Oh, it's championship or bust, baby. I'm so excited. I can't wait for March 2nd. He makes his debut at home. Obviously, next Friday is this Friday now.
It is.
But I was all for it. I was all for Daryl Morey just letting Ben Simmons rot in purgatory until he got a superstar. And he was able to get one in James Harden. That's the guy you wanted from day one. I was more than okay with that. And look, there were times I tried to convince myself, okay, yeah, I would like Tyrese Halliburton. I would like Buddy Hield. I would like CJ McCollum, but they're not James Harden. And
No.
I am convinced James Harden dogs it when he doesn't play, just like most NBA players do. Unless your name's LeBron James, you dog it when things don't go as well, or Kevin Durant.
Right.
But
Right.
I think James Harden's going to be great for them. I think it's perfect offense for him. I think it's going to complement Joel Embiid well. Eagles got 2 of the 3 NBA MVP finalists from last year. I don't think James Harden forgot how to play basketball. I don't think he slowed down. I think he sees the guy burning sage in the locker room and looked at him like he was Hydra. So
Yeah.
I think that's why he checked out. He said, "Look, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't decide to come to Brooklyn for this." And he really didn't want to come to Brooklyn anyway. He wanted to go to Philly. But if Houston's not going to trade him there, what do you do? Like, you don't want to be in the situation you're in.
And with the emergence of Thibault, you're more able to get rid of Ben Simmons because his biggest asset is his ability to guard perimeter players, perimeter players.
Yeah.
But he will never be offensively, even if Ben Simmons continues to take major steps offensively, which we're not even sure he's interested in. He will never be the scorer that James Harden is.
What's so frustrating about Ben Simmons to me was he could be Giannis. He could have been Giannis. And he still can be Giannis. I don't know if he wants to put the work in.
No.
He is that guy. Let me show you what I'm doing in the gym.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great, dude. I don't really care.
Right.
I cared the first year you were here.
Yep.
Now I don't. He was just a frustrating player to watch for me. He really was, because I get every good thing he did. I'm a basketball coach. I know what he brings to the table.
Yep.
But I know high schoolers that shoot more jumpers than him. I do. It's embarrassing. Like, he was so afraid that it was going to hurt his market. Well, he already had his market. I just don't think he liked Philadelphia. And I don't think he liked being number 2 to All-NBA. I just don't. And
I also just don't know if the guy's a winner. I mean, when he was at LSU, he was fine. That was what stood out to me. He had amazing ability to pass, to drive the basketball, to play in the post, but it didn't seem like losing bothered him.
Did you ever
that's
notice,
not a good fit.
Did you ever notice this? Over all these years, when they built their roster, they built it around Ben, not Joel Embiid.
Right.
That's why the trade stuff always was floating around with Embiid, because they drafted Markelle Fultz to help Ben Simmons out. They drafted Zaire Smith to help Ben Simmons out. By the way, biggest mistake the Sixers have ever made, letting Mikal Bridges go for Zaire Smith. I'm like, wait a minute. Mikal just owned this guy in the tournament, and now you're bringing him in here? A 6'2" power forward? Come on. And you slow? Yeah, no thanks. Anyway, but every move they made, shooters, JJ Redick, Marco Bellinelli, Ersan Ilyasova, that was for Ben.
Yeah.
That was for Embiid. So it was an uneven pairing. And I'm like, okay, I don't really want to train Embiid, because I think Embiid got a lot better than they thought he was going to get. I think that's eventually ended up what happened. And then they brought in the right guys in here. And look, Elton Brand, he tried. He tried with the Al Horford thing. But then again, that was for Ben too.
Yes.
And that didn't work. And then they got lucky, and Daryl Morey wanted to come here and basically told him, I can get a superstar in here. And they went star hunting and they got it. And now it's a perfect fit. Now this team is built around Joel Embiid. This year's team was built for Joel Embiid. That's why Joel Embiid is as good. Joel Embiid was doing this stuff despite Ben Simmons holding him back, clogging up the lane. Ben just, I don't know, there's something that needs to be said about a guy who Jimmy Butler didn't like, and I'm a big Jimmy Butler guy. I want Jimmy Butler to stay. Tobias Harris is another one. Ben Simmons. But he can fit well with Embiid too because there's certain things he can do.
Yep.
He kind of fit both players, but there's something that needs to be said about a guy who did not want the ball in the fourth quarter, was basically the dunker in the fourth quarter. He was beyond useless.
Yes.
That's why I don't like him. And then the mentality, and I don't want to get into the whole mental health thing.
I know.
And good riddance, man. Good riddance.
Absolutely. And I hear a lot of people saying there's only one basketball. That's what always gets said when you put multiple superstars together. The truth is that James Harden and Joel Embiid's games really do mesh well together. There's a lot of Joel Embiid sets a huge pick. Who will be able to pick and pop or pick and roll the way that these two will be able to? There
is one thing about Ben Simmons' press conference I don't think he lied about. Two things. He didn't speak to Joel Embiid. I don't think he's lying there. Two, I think he is right when he said, I'm a team guy. I want to help my teammates win. In a sense, on the basketball court. I think he does do that. I really do. I think he likes to distribute the ball. I think that's his game. I think he likes to play good defense. I will agree with him on that. But in terms of the behind-the-scenes stuff, no. And he would have been completely fine if he would just said, you know what, I'm not going to be here. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to be here. If you guys can trade me, let's do it. Let's get out of here. I'm not ready to come back. I don't want to come back. It's too much. I don't think I can ever get over this as a man, as a basketball player. I might need a fresh start. But he pulled all the stunts you shouldn't pull.
And it's not right. It buys in. It gets people to buy into the most basic and incorrect trope about Sixers Philly fans.
You saw it in the street. All of a sudden, I know some of the people on Twitter defending Ben in the New York market, and I'm like, dude, this is why I can't stand some people in the media. They have an agenda and they stick to it.
Yes,
it's ridiculous. I'm not going to mention names because I won't do it. But there are some people who think their word is God. And I saw the one tweet. Oh, see, yeah, you're right. He left a toxic environment. Here's the thing: the Sixers environment isn't toxic. They're one of the most stable franchises in the league now.
Seriously.
What are you talking about? There was toxic in the Sixers locker room. He's out.
Ben.
Yeah, that's the toxic.
What? Who's toxic? Tobias Harris, the nicest guy walking the earth.
yeah. Tobias Harris is toxic. What is so toxic about Joel Embiid? I'd love to play with a guy like that. He's
hilarious.
Like Joel the Troll Embiid. Like, it's funny. He's built for this. And Joel Embiid had to deal with his demons here. There were times people booed him. I was at the game where he basically said "F you" to the fans.
Right.
Like, whatever. Play better. That's pretty much what I tell people now. Just play better. And he did. And he admitted his wrongdoing. I thought Ben would have that come to Jesus moment. Never did.
No, it's okay. Good riddance. We'll see you on March 10th.
Yeah, maybe. I think you and I have a better chance of playing on that floor on March 10th than he
does. That's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate.
No, if I was Ben, I would literally just go out there. I just do it because you're gonna face them in the playoffs at some point. You just go out there and do it. You take the verbal abuse. You kind of just ignore it. And honestly, if he trashed the fans after the game, I wouldn't have an issue with it.
No,
I'd be like, if I was Ben, I'd be like, yeah, I expected it. Philly fans are what they are. That type of thing. Like, he can slam them. I don't care. Like, he has a right to do that. I mean, if someone told me like nasty things, I'd probably say the same thing.
Exactly. Like, I'm excited. It feels good. It's been a while since I really feel like the Sixers had a rivalry because the Celtics has lost its luster. Neither one of them were really ever going to win the championship anyway. So now there's a real rivalry. It's exciting.
Yeah. So I know one of the guys I'm friends with in the media. He's a big Celtics fan. He was just trashing Sixers on Twitter, and I'm like, God, you do know this game doesn't mean anything, right? Oh, that's not what you were saying a month ago. I'm like, no, I said that a month ago too when the Sixers blew Celtics out. It doesn't mean anything.
The Celtics aren't going anywhere.
No, they got on a winning streak because they're playing bad teams in the Southeast Division.
Yeah.
I always say, show me who the opponent was, and I'll tell you if you're good or not.
Especially in basketball.
Yeah, it's as a guy who coached the 2-19 teams this year, teams really look forward to playing us to get out.
Yes. They high five you after the game. Good stuff. Good job. Good job.
I actually had to tell a kid off this year because he was like, our team, like we would do like chants on the bench, like defense and stuff like that. And they were up 30 on us in the fourth quarter. And he said, where's your chance now? Where's your chance now? This guy had like 2 points. He was like, because I did all the stats.
I hate those.
And I'm like, yo, 4. Your team's 3-15. Shut up.
Yeah.
And then he shut up. And then he knew he wanted to say something to me and after the game. He said, good game. I'm like, I would have roasted him there too. I'm like, dude,
no,
just enjoy your W, man. Like your team's killing us. Like, just enjoy it.
If you're old enough to talk smack, I'm old enough to talk smack back.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Don't get upset when we do it.
Yes. Yes.
I don't care. You and I can talk smack on here for an hour. I don't care. It ain't gonna bother me. I think people take stuff way too personally these days. I really do.
Absolutely. Jeff, thanks again. It's pleasure. I'm so glad that this thing kept recording because we didn't have I was like, oh my God, we're cursed. Yeah.
I was like, this thing's probably still recording, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go in the still freeze frame here.
Jeff, tell the people where they can follow you, what you're working on right now, when your next deadline, when we should look for your next piece. I think you said you were writing on franchise tag.
Yeah, that'll be out Tuesday. You can follow me at Jeff Kerr CBS. I just tweet about sports. I'm just stick to sports guy. Let's put it that way. It's like people don't care about my personal opinions, so I don't share them. As you know, Matt.
Yes. Yeah, I know you keep it strictly professional and breath of fresh air. Really appreciate you coming on, Jeff. I'll see you soon, man.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me on again, Matt. I appreciate it.
Take care, man. Bye.